Raising Kings, the Next Generation. In a world where young African American boys navigate unique challenges, true guidance requires both science and soul. Raising emotionally intelligent Black men demands moving beyond stereotypes to understand the distinct neurological and emotional wiring that shapes how boys process their feelings. The transformation begins with authentic communication, creating spaces where vulnerability isn't weakness but strength. This journey isn't just about raising sons, it's about raising kings who stand confident in their identity and resilience. It's about mothers becoming the architects of generational healing, breaking cycles that have persisted for too long. Jennifer Tolliver is a single mother of three, including two sons, one with autism, who founded Raising Kings after experiencing her teenage son emotionally withdrawing from her. Drawing from deep neurological research and personal experience, she created a platform equipping African American single mothers with tools, resources, and confidence to raise emotionally resilient young men. Jennifer operates both a nonprofit and a for profit business dedicated to supporting mothers through tailored programs, mentorship, and even an AI assistant specifically designed for single moms navigating challenging parenting moments.
Welcome to Impctrs Out Loud. I'm your host, Tracy B. Allen. Impctrs Out Loud is where social impact meets strategy, spotlighting trailblazing entrepreneurs, their challenges, and the revolutionary innovations driving real change. Each week, we dive into powerful stories, strategies, and insight to inspire and equip those passionate about making an impact through business.
Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Impctrs Out Loud. Today I have with me Jennifer Tolliver, and she's going to be here to talk about what she does in her nonprofit and her for-profit business around making African Americans more, positive about being an African American, more understanding their place in this world and how to navigate through it. Jennifer, thank you for joining us today. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what your cause story is. Why did you get into this line of work?
Well, thank you so much, Tracy. I'm very honored to be here on Impctrs Out Loud. I have deep respect for this platform. I've never seen anything like it. So I love the work that you're doing, highlights leaders. We're actually really trying to make a change, and we don't often get the recognition. So I'm excited to share my mission with you guys, the mission behind Raising Kings with your audience. So a little bit about my cause tale starts in my own living room, actually. So my name, like Tracy said, Jennifer Tolliver. I am a single mother of three. I have two boys, one whom is on the autism spectrum, and a beautiful daughter. I've been a single mom for over 9 years now. But what I realized early on is that I wasn't just raising boys. I was actually raising men who were, going to walk into a world that's not always designed for them to win, and actually sometimes is designed for them to lose in some circumstances. So a turning point with that for me kind of was with my 17-year-old son. He's been with me through everything, my whole journey, my firstborn. So I learned a lot with him, and we've become close because of that.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, that turning point was when he started shutting down emotionally on me. It was actually very heartbreaking for me to experience what felt like for me was him slipping away from me. And out of frustration, because I didn't know what else to do, I was just like talking at him, putting up these ridiculous parameters around his freedom. I wasn't actively listening to him to understand. And, at that time, I didn't realize how my approach was is actually mirroring the same lack of emotional space that so many of us, or so many African American males experience growing up in their households, and I knew that was a problem. So when I actually realized that, it pushed me to dive deep into understanding the emotional intelligence of men. I started looking into trauma informed parenting and other culturally relevant strategies to raise my son. What I did realize is that, we as women don't always recognize the deep emotional tension that's in males. Like, we don't realize how sensitive they actually are because of the differences in how we display our emotions.
Mhm.
They're not going to openly show us that. And it's dangerous because in many cases, guys, especially young guys, can be more sensitive than even we are as women for certain things. And us not knowing that, we're causing more damage than good raising them. And it's a generational thing. So that's what led to me birthing Raising Kings, um,
Mhm.
which is a platform that equips African American single moms with tools, resources, and, most importantly, the confidence that we need to raise our boys the right way. Emotionally resilient, confident, empowered, and young men. So I got to studying and created some, courses, some
Mhm.
good ebooks, and just mentorship programs, just to make sure that we're there, for single moms in any way that we can be.
Okay. So you said that you felt your son slipping away from you, and you realized that you can't parent the same way that you were currently parenting in
Yes,
order to get him back in grips and make sure that he becomes the young man that you want him to be and that he needs to be for himself, most of all,
yes,
that you had to do things differently.
yes.
What were some of those things? What was the first step that you took in this process?
Well, the first step, I think, is to actually not take myself completely out of it, but put the focus on him, because it's hard, as a single parent, you're going through life on a daily basis every day, and you don't always stop and put yourself in your children's shoes, which is a very effective strategy for me, because we forget what they're going through as teenagers, especially um, young African American teenage boys. And I realized with my daughter, raising her came more naturally to me. I was able to, communicate with her
Mhm.
as I knew how. But with my son, it's like, okay, this is not working. I'm sensing some resistance. I don't understand it. So, like, what is this?
Mhm.
And I actually studied the actual brain differences in between men and women in
Oh,
general.
you got deep.
Oh yeah, yeah. We get down into the dark matter and the white
Okay.
matter and all that. So yeah,
Mhm.
our amygdala processes our emotions in completely different ways. So it's
Mhm.
actually almost impossible for us to communicate in the same effectively in the same way as we would with another woman, if I'm explaining explaining that
Yeah.
correctly. And
Mhm.
I mean, it's not a blanket situation. There are
Mhm.
some, men and women are
Nuances.
differences. Right, right,
Mhm.
exactly. But yeah, when you get down to the science of the emotional processing and how they actually communicate as men, you see the differences. And I feel like as women, since we're more naturally conversational and communicative and open with our emotions, I feel like it's on us, and that's just my opinion, to start the conversation and to figure this thing out. Because looking at the brain structures and differences, it's like men are more logical and we are more emotional. But to get to that, middle ground, I think as women kind of have to take that step. I know some of us are like, wait a minute, why can't they?
Well, I
Men do
was just about to say, wait a minute.
Oh, yeah, I know,
No, when
but we
you said
want
what I was
results.
going to say, wait a minute, it's not when it comes to,
Yeah.
I do believe, yes, it's our job as moms to do that, moms.
Yes.
not grown
Right.
men.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And I do understand that when my son was a teenager,
Mhm.
you know, he kind of went through a phase as well. And I had to do the deep dive. So that's why I
Yeah.
say you went deep because even when he was diagnosed with or suspected of having ADHD,
Hmm.
I became an expert on
Yeah.
ADHD
Yeah.
because I needed to understand what it was
Hmm.
and all of the information out there about dealing or restructuring the brain, right? Reconditioning the brain and having him understand what is happening with him himself.
Right.
So I became an expert at it and I applaud you for doing that. You saw the
Thank
problem and you decided, hey, this is not what I want for my son. This is not the relationship I want with him. This is
Right.
not how I want him to move through life. Let me figure out what's going on and what I can do to stop it or help to curve the current behavior that he's having into
Right.
something that's more palatable and will allow him to navigate this world in a more productive manner. So
Yes.
kudos to you for that
Thank you.
because
Thank
a
you.
lot of parents don't take the time to do that. And I mean, I understand,
Yeah.
sometimes it could be educational reasons. They don't have the knowledge base to do that. They don't have the
Hmm.
time, whatever it is. But if you are a parent that does have that time, to really truly get to know your teenager and try to communicate with them on a level where they're not growing up and becoming, um, what do they call it? No contact. They're
Right.
going no contact with you
Hmm.
because, they had such a tumultuous teenage life with you, young
Yeah.
adult life with you. I really applaud it. And then, your son is a reflection of you,
Right.
right? So when
Yep.
he goes out into this world and he does whatever, it's a
Hmm.
reflection on your parenting.
Yes.
So yeah, I really love that. Um, so tell me how the conversation started, how the remodeling of your relationship and the way he communicates happened.
So luckily, I'm blessed to have a wonderful person as a son to start with. So that
Mhm,
was half the battle. And I think that came from even before I started doing my deep dive into the relationship between
mhm,
mothers and sons. I took the time I knew it was important communication, open communication with my son at a young age. Because if I hadn't done that, it's hard to come in when they're a teenager and try to make
mhm.
any type of impact. I'm like, who are you?
Yeah.
So it's like, since in my situation, since I
Mhm,
was a young mom
mhm.
and he was my son, it's like we not
How
grew up
old were you when you
together.
had him?
When I had him, I was 24, so I wasn't a
Mhm.
baby, but I was
Right.
pretty
So you
young.
kind of grew up with him.
Exactly, that's
Yeah.
exactly how it was. So we had that more of an open dialogue with him, and I went through a relationship that was toxic. I can't really go deeply into it because
That's
of
fine.
court issues, but
Mhm,
going through that with him strengthened our bond in a way that I don't, it's very rare. So it started, to answer your question, it started at communication at a young
mhm,
age with him, actually caring about what's going on in his life and
mhm,
say, hey, what's up? What's going on? Because it was just me and him.
mhm,
So setting that foundation was the biggest help for me. So when I actually started studying what I needed to do to communicate with him when things started getting a little shaky,
mhm,
um, I had to kind of draw from that relationship that I had started with him at a young age. And what that looks like is listening, um,
mhm,
being there. When you ask them about something, ask them something that you genuinely would like to know about, and then listen for the answer, and then remember it. It's like it's just with like a significant other. You have to have that same
mhm,
respect for your son. So it's like you can have this whole long conversation and you're not really listening. And he's so excited. Then he comes back like, Mom, remember I said this and this and this? Well, guess what happened? And you're
mhm,
like, what are you talking about? It's like you just made it worse than when you tried to fix it in the first place. So being consistent with the
mhm,
communication, actually caring, you have to stop what you're doing and be a parent. And
Mhm.
it's become rare because it's not a hot topic. Parenting and mothering isn't something that's talked about that much anymore. So
Right.
when I deal with some moms and explain, what's entailed in helping their sons, they're like, "Oh
Mhm.
my God, like I have to do all this, like I didn't work it." But it's because we are so far removed from real parenting, in my opinion. We don't
Mhm.
see it. I mean, maybe it's just my algorithms, but we don't see that, scrolling on social media. There's not a lot of positive
Mhm.
things about parenting reminding us that yes, this is a job you have to do. And especially if you're in a situation where you're doing it by yourself, you have to put in the work for your kids. It's not an easy thing to do, and I know that at this day and age, things that are harder and are more involved and complex are kind of shied away from. But it's like
Yeah.
no, like you have to do the work. It's like
Mhm.
you do all the work to find the man you want to find and the house of your dreams, but it's like you don't focus on what's going to be here after you're gone, and that's what will lead into generations to come.
Yeah. It's what you said, when you're scrolling social media, you're not seeing good examples of parenting or a lot of stuff about, being a good parent. What you see is a lot of performative parenting,
Right,
right? It's parenting for the camera.
right,
I wanted to piggyback on what you said about having a foundation of good communication between you and your son. I think that is the catalyst, right? Setting up communication guidelines very early on in your child's life, not asking questions as a form of being a robot, right?
right.
You're not just asking, "Hey, how was your school today?" because you're supposed to ask, "Hey,
Mhm.
how was school today?"
They'll
But
give you
actually
a
listening
robot
to the
response.
answer, right? Actually listening to the answer and giving advice back and
Yeah,
asking other probing questions based on what they have told you. Because if you show that interest early on when they're going to preschool, like, "Hey, how was school today?
yeah,
What did you do?" Da da da. Ask them more than just, "Hey, how was school
you're
today?"
right.
Then they know that they can have conversation with you. And if they're telling you they're having a problem,
Mm-hmm.
you either can give them advice about how to solve said problem
Yep.
and coping strategies for it, and being just their first advocate. So when
Mm-hmm.
they do go through that hormonal change, when
Yes.
they're teenagers, you still have something to pull from, like you said,
Yes. Yes.
right?
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. So I think that's where a lot of parents tend to go wrong. Nobody's saying that your child should be your friend,
Right.
but you should have a friendly relationship with your child with boundaries that I'm still mom or
Yes.
dad or whomever.
Yes.
Yeah. So, you talked about your relationship with your son and how you went about getting started. Did you feel that there was a necessity to have a male figure in his life? Or do you think that women can do the work necessary to get them to where they need to be without the male figure? Since you're saying that you're a single mom and you're talking to a lot of other single moms, and I know that there's a consistent debate about women not being able to raise men, right? So give me
Yeah.
your thoughts on that.
I think
Yeah.
both statements are accurate. Yes, I wholeheartedly believe that young men need a strong male mentor in their lives,
Mhm.
um, to help them progress and grow. And I also believe that it is 100% possible for a woman to raise a man effectively if she has to. So, I one of our main things is finding a male mentor, and because it's very important. And
Mhm.
I don't believe that it should just be an uncle or it should just be your grandfather or even the child's father, because you have to be honest about your situation if you want to help your child in the best way that you can.
Mhm.
Because our culture, the situation is a little bit detrimental going back even generations and generations,
Mhm.
going back. So a lot of women, you don't have a positive male mentor immediately in your family because sometimes they didn't have a positive male mentor for them growing
Mhm.
up. You have to be honest with yourself about who you pick to guide your child, because I believe that in our culture
Mhm.
it's pretty bad in some situations, and it can't. You need more help than just an uncle who may be in the streets himself or may not know the rites of passage to manhood. You don't
Right.
pick just anybody because they're a male mentor. That's not doing the job. So,
Mhm.
and then even if a child does have a father in their life, sometimes a father is not the 100% best
That's
person
true.
to be a mentor to them. Not that the
Mhm.
father should not be in their life, but he might need some additional help and resources. And a lot of times when you're dealing with the male ego of, the kid's father or whatever, they may not um, take it upon themselves to bring another man that would make up for what they know they're lacking to
Mhm.
help their son. So it's up to us as moms to pick somebody who actually understands the principles that we want our son to become, and
Mhm.
understand himself. And there's people that actually want to be male mentors. There's a lot of community programs that offer that. Somebody that can give you real feedback on what's going on with your son. Um, and then a lot of times our family members are overworked, and so let's say we pick the wrong guy, to have a child with. That's not their fault. And
Right.
the role of a father and an uncle and a cousin is a role in itself, and I
Mhm.
believe that those are positive roles, but I don't think they should be overworked because you can ruin that relationship. The
Mhm.
father, grandfather, or uncle can come grow to resent you because this is not my child. It's like I feel obligated because this is my family member and I want to help you, but
Mhm.
it's not necessarily the greatest option for your son. And then your son is going to be able to also pick up on that reluctance from the family member. So
Right.
I just in general think it's best to find somebody that's going to be dedicated to the role of being a male mentor for your son. So with that being said, women can raise a man, but not as effectively as if there was a male mentor in the picture as well.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree. Um, I was lucky to have my brothers and my dad for part of the time. So
Hmm.
they did play double roles
Yeah,
in my son life, but they played it willingly.
right.
It wasn't a task that I pushed onto them, but I do understand what you're saying. In some instances,
Hmm.
the uncle or the grandfather is just saddled with that task and they're taking it on reluctantly, and that can cause more damage psychologically and emotionally to the child than it's actually doing good. And I'm glad that you referenced how you found male mentors
Yeah.
through various, they have Big Brothers.
Hmm.
I'm sure you can, I don't know any other place, but I definitely know a Big Brother. And I'm
Yeah.
sure there are other organizations within the community that you can tap into. And even with those, you still have to be careful. And
Yes.
hopefully they're all vetted, and you still need that relationship with your child, right? Because you
Yep.
still need to ask questions about, like, hey, what
Yep.
went on?
Yep.
You
Yep.
know,
Yes.
is everything good? Are you feeling, anything
Right.
funny about the relationship? Or, are you feeling the guidance that you're getting is the right type of guidance? So you
Hmm.
still have to have that open communication, even if you have that male mentor,
Hmm.
whether it be a family member or a non-family member.
Right. Yes, you
Yeah.
definitely have to vet them. And I would just as like a quick tip, ladies, please, your
Mhm.
son's male mentors are off limits to you romantically. Please, because I know it's hard, as single moms. The coach is over there looking good, and you see him taking care of your son, and it looks nice. But no, you run the risk of actually doing more damage than from when you started. Because if say you get involved with one of your son's male mentors and it doesn't work out, and now your son is at risk for experiencing even another loss of a male
Yeah.
mentor figure after he's probably may have already lost his father figure or other boyfriends you may have brought into the picture. So leave that alone.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's a good tip. Leave that alone for
yes,
real.
leave it alone.
Don't mess it up for your child.
No, that's what's most important.
So tell me about the process that you take parents through when they come through your program. Like, what does it entail?
Well, I have there's an extensive like discovery portion because every situation is vastly different. Um, so if someone comes to me with a young child, let's see, between the ages of 3 to 10, it's like I'm excited because it's like they're a little more moldable and
Catching them
easier to work
early.
with. Yeah, exactly, and it's so much easier.
Mhm,
Um, and then we go in and teach them how to communicate better, do role playing. Um, we spend a lot of time interviewing the sons and seeing how they feel about the relationship with their mother
mhm.
because once they do feel comfortable communicating, they know they're in a safe space. It's like they let everything out. So you look over the mom's discovery form and compare it to what the kids say. I was like, I don't know. Okay, there's differences here, but you get
Uh-huh.
the most information from the son. So when they're that age, it's mainly dealing with communication, staying in their world, and making
Mhm.
sure they're confident in themselves and loyal to themselves so that they're not easily misled and manipulated. That's what we focus mostly or mostly.
Mostly. I know. Trust me. I
Mostly.
know.
Yeah. Right. So that's what we focus on for that age. And for the older kids, it gets a little bit more complicated because
Mhm.
it kind of deals a little bit more with the mother healing. Um, at this point in the relationship because the son has, probably been damaged by the situation a lot
Mhm.
longer than some of the younger kids that we deal with. So getting to the mom first, getting her to heal herself,
Mhm.
how to learning how to deal with her emotions, um, dealing with different discipline aspects, and of course getting a positive male mentor in their life, all those things help. But it's mainly about the mom at this point because your son is, I don't like to say age out because what people say, like they're going to age out, they're going to be 18. I don't believe in that. But,
Mhm.
you know, so to speak, it's like once your son is a certain age, it becomes harder to make changes in him. So you have to make sure the mom is emotionally sound to deal with the things that her son is doing or going through. And because if she isn't an emotional, let's say, powerhouse herself, then she's not going to be able to help him at this stage
Right.
in his growth. So that's kind of how we approach it for the younger kids, moms with the
Mhm.
younger kids. We start with right away communication and starting to form a bond with your son. And then the older they get, we start to focus more on the emotions of the mother and just her overall wellness. And that actually helps the son as well.
Okay. Do you have like a referral system with a therapist? How does that component work?
Yes, yes, we have licensed therapists and counselors as well
Mhm.
as male mentors. So,
Okay.
yeah, especially when they're older, the kids are older, that we need some professional
Mhm.
help. So, yes, we definitely have a panel of male
Mhm.
mentors, and I have a psychologist and a counselor ready to help moms who are also gone through the single mom journey as well.
Mhm.
So, it's a double help in that sense.
Are the moms, well, I'm guessing they're receptive because they're coming to you,
Yes,
right? So
yes.
they're usually receptive towards the changes that they have to make in their behavior, their personal behavior, and how they show up for their son
Most of the time.
most of the time.
Usually, if if they come to me, they're in their fertile ground. They're in a space that they want to improve and grow. But sometimes not always. A
Hmm.
lot of times, moms don't really want a solution. They just want,
A fix.
yeah, yeah. They
Just
they
fix
want
it.
to, right. They want a quick fix, or
Yeah,
they want me to tell them that your son's a terrible person, and you're right
got
for what
you.
you're doing, but that's not always the case. So you do get some parents who don't don't like what you have to say and
Mhm.
what you have to tell them. They're not willing to do the work that it takes because it's a lot of work. Like I
Yeah.
when they come to me, I'm like, this is not like you're about to get into the woods, especially if your son is older. Like this isn't something that's just a fly by night. Something you can. We do have lots of tips and tricks you can print out, but this isn't that.
Mhm.
This isn't something
Right.
you can just fix overnight, and it mostly starts with you. And a lot of times when someone's hit with the mirror, the reflection, they don't really like they're not ready to process that,
Mhm.
and so they're not ready yet. So
And what do you do with those moms who are just not ready? Are you able to still help the child individually, or how
not
does that work?
not so far, not yet.
Okay.
Usually, if a mom is resistant to um, what we're trying to help her with, we
Hmm.
don't even meet the kid. Like we
Oh
don't
wow.
get
Okay.
even get that far. But
Okay.
what I would do or what I do in that situation is I just send the tips and tricks. I
Okay.
just send the
Yeah.
whatever I
Because there's
can.
nothing else you can do if she's not open
Right.
to receiving. Yeah.
And even just
Yeah.
if she does one of these things, it might help. So,
Right. Um, so you have a podcast of the same name as
mhm.
your company that you do with your 17-year-old. Tell us about that.
All right. So I started the podcast with my son because we have some really good car conversations and just conversations in general because he's such an
Hmm.
intelligent young man. He has such a great understanding for the world and things around him and just like
Hmm.
a real zest for life. And his personality is so great that when we talk, it's like it feels like magic is happening because I'm able to understand things that I would never be able to understand coming from his generation and his
Hmm.
in the the male species,
Yeah.
and we have an open dialogue that allows other moms to kind of listen in on that and see what their teenage son might be thinking or feeling,
Hmm.
about the same types of things. So yeah, we branched off to having other guests that come on and
Nice.
help with resources and tips for
Hmm.
moms, single
Hmm.
moms. But yeah, that's the core of it is me and my son because he has such a wonderful insight because it's like right out of the horse's mouth. This is
Right.
exactly what we're trying to do and help. So it's yeah, he's great.
Okay, awesome. And then you have a nonprofit organization. Um, Tell us about that.
All right. I believe you're referring to Neighborhood Emergency Supply
Yeah.
Association.
Yes.
So so I've started out. I'm a prepper. I'm not embarrassed about it. I have, um, I'm ready for anything. And I feel, especially as single moms, it's important for us to be ready because a lot of people don't think about um, what would happen in an emergency situation. Like we just saw with the whole COVID thing, people were buying up toilet paper, which was crazy. But it's like,
Mhm.
well, let me go back. Okay, this is what the organization actually is.
Okay.
So, what the goal is to have within 5 miles of each other um, FEMA approved tornado proof hurricane shelters stocked with enough emergency supplies for everyone within the 5 mile vicinity.
Gotcha.
And that way everyone will have access to those emergency supplies right away. You wouldn't have to wait on FEMA to come or the Red Cross and all that.
Mhm.
Of course, they would come and we would be able to assist them, but these these structures, tornado-proof structures, will be already there, stocked with food, water, and emergency supplies, so everyone can get to them, whenever they need to. So that's the gist of what NASA is, and I just think it's important because nobody thinks about having emergency supplies, and everyone
Right.
doesn't have a basement. And
Mhm.
if you're a single mom, you got to think about okay, especially with my son with autism, I
Mhm.
can't maneuver as quickly as somebody who doesn't, have the situation that I'm in. It's like he needs things right away. This is not a
Mm-hmm.
situation where we're gonna be able to wait it out. It's like, so that's what kind of birthed me being a prepper myself and just having everything ready. And then I realized that nobody else is ready. There's things that matter. I'm like, oh my God, mom, what if something happens? Like, you don't have anything. They're like, oh,
Right.
but no, I think it's important for the community to be able to take care of itself in that
Hmm.
sense. Um,
Yes, I agree.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful. You're doing a lot
Yeah.
of really amazing things to
Thank,
impact your community. And again, I applaud you for that.
thank,
It takes a lot of strength and a lot of resilience to go out here every day and do the type of work that a lot of the people I interview on this podcast do, right? To be diligent. You can get worn down by just the woes of life
yeah.
itself and dealing with people who have major issues, um, especially with communication, because if they're not communicating with their kids right,
Hmm.
more than likely they're not going to be a good communicator at all, right? And
Exactly.
just having to deal with all those different personalities and just powering through it and trying
Yeah.
to make a significant change within your community, especially with African American young men.
Yeah.
Because, they get a bad rap and
Mhm.
they get painted with a broad brush, and not every person who's African American or Black is the same, whether you're talking about boys or girls or whatever.
Yes.
It's just not the same. And we want to change that stigma and show that we can produce children, whether we're single moms or you're coupled up,
Right.
married or unmarried, that you have the ability to create well-rounded individuals in our society. So again, I applaud you for the work you do. And I know
Thank,
you're in like Illinois, right?
yes.
Chicago?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. So you're in the heart of things.
Yes, ma'am.
You're in the heart of things,
Right in the
right?
heart of it all. Yes.
Yeah. So, um, okay, so tell us, leave the audience of single moms with probably young sons or teenagers who they want to either uh, try to start communicating now with, to make sure that when they do get to that teenage stage, they have the coping skills to navigate whatever is happening with them emotionally and
Hmm.
physically at the same
Yes.
time, right? And all the peer pressures that they will have to deal with in school, or moms who have children right now who are teenagers and the communication and the strategies are just not there
Hmm.
at this moment. Um, for them to deal with. And then let us know if you do. I forgot to ask you earlier, do
Hmm.
you do online
Mm.
as well, or do you have to be in the Chicago area?
Okay.
Yeah.
We do online. So,
Okay.
yes, most definitely. Whatever you need, we will most likely do our best to accommodate that. So, yes, wherever you are, let us know.
Mhm.
But
Okay.
to answer your question, I think the most important thing is authenticity.
Hmm.
Your children, that's really the language of a child. They haven't, grown to, well, some of them have, but they haven't really experienced a lot of the fake and phoniness that kind of, breaks our hearts as we grow. But
Hmm.
you have to be authentic. If you haven't been communicative with your son, if you haven't been in his life like you should, then you need to say that. Like, that's gonna get you in the door because that you're coming authentically and honestly. You can't just come in and, like I said before, they don't even know who you are or why you're doing this. They're not gonna trust you. Like, where all of a sudden,
Hmm.
you know. So if you haven't been in communication like you should with them, say that. Just, hey, look, I know I've been messing up as far as giving you the attention you need and deserve. And I haven't been putting myself in your shoes and in your world. And hey, I'm sorry about that. And
Hmm.
I want to make a change. I really care about you and I want us to form a bond. And then you have to actually follow up on that. So I would say the most important part is to be authentic. And especially the older your child is. And when your
Hmm.
children are younger, you kind of have to put yourself in their world. Um, Like if they're playing, you have to get down on the floor. You know, hey, what you doing? Like you were saying earlier, don't just ask the robot questions because you're gonna get the robot answers. Say, how was
Right.
your day at school? Fine. What did you do? Nothing. Like the same thing. But you have to actually ask the questions that mean something. Like, what was the best part of your day today, or what
Mhm.
was the worst part of your day today, or what made you feel special today? Like, what happened today that made you feel really good about yourself, or was there something that happened today that made you feel sad and not confident in yourself? Like, actually dive deep into your communicating with your child, and then it's gonna be a lot. A lot's gonna happen. A lot is gonna open up once you start to do that. If you're authentic, because they can smell a phony a mile away. They can't.
I say that all the time.
Yes,
They have the nose of a dog,
they do.
okay?
Yeah.
Right? So they're gonna sniff you out in 2.2 seconds.
Yep.
So yeah.
Yep. Definitely.
Mhm. Any more tips?
So, okay, be consistent because that's going
Mm-hmm.
to build the trust with your
Mm-hmm.
son. So boys crave structure and reliability. So when we set the boundaries that we set for them, we need to set
Mm-hmm.
it with love and leadership. And that way they're going to learn how to navigate the world around them with confidence because they're going to be used to that um,
Right.
consistency that you set for them. And also, like I said before, healing, it starts with us as moms. Um, just like everything else does. Like we're the mothers, everything
Right.
creation starts with us. But
Mm-hmm.
if we can model emotional intelligence, strength, and resilience, and we actually do the work to heal ourselves, our sons can they won't inherit all that trauma and emotional um, just pain.
Baggage. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So
Mm-hmm.
So I would say make sure you heal yourself, be authentic, and stay consistent once you start.
Okay. Awesome. And what makes you an impactor?
What makes me an impactor? All right. I am an impactor because I'm not just raising boys, I'm raising a generation of kings. Through Raising Kings, I'm empowering single mothers to break cycles, create safe emotional spaces, and build legacies that transform their families and communities for generations to come. I'm not just impacting individual families, I'm shifting the culture. And that's why I think I'm an impactor.
Awesome. All right. Tell the people how they can find you, and if you have something that you'd like to present, like you have some type of discount or a book that you want to promote or whatever it is, let them know.
All right, you guys. So this is not just for single moms, men are welcome as well.
Hmm.
But if you believe that every young Black boy in the world deserves to be seen, heard, and equipped for real greatness and given a real shot, at life. Join the Raising Kings movement. And here's how you can support us. You can enroll in our programs. Equipping yourself as a mother, you will know all the tools you need to raise emotionally intelligent and resilient sons. You can actually sponsor a mom if you'd like. A lot of moms in our situation, they want to join our programs, but they need financial support, and we do offer them um, financial, assistance from us. But we need help too, because I am a single mom too. So we, but yes, if you want to support or sponsor a mom, that sponsorship can actually change the trajectory of a young boy's life, and also spread the word. So you can follow us on Instagram. That's where we're mainly at right now. We're at Raising Kings underscore.
Mhm.
Um, and also, you can find our resources through Instagram. They're on our link tree, but that separate URL is raisingkings.live. And that's where you can find all the downloads, majority of which are free. I think they're all free. We have a virtual assistant that I created and trained for single African American mothers. That's also free for you. It has a trained male mentor in it. It's created with ChatGPT, so
Mhm.
it's trained to be an African American male mentor as well. This isn't to replace a physical, human,
Right.
but this is for on the fly. It's an app you can get on your phone and like, look, he is tripping out at this point. This is what happened. What should I do? And it'll
Mm.
kind of give you something to go off of in the moment.
Oh, that's awesome.
Thank
Yeah, and they can get that through the ChatGPT app store.
you. Excuse me. They can actually download it straight from the website or
Okay.
Raising Kings, our platform there.
Okay. Awesome.
And if anyone
Oh,
wants to learn how to train their own family assistant, I can help you with that as well.
okay. All right, Jennifer, thank you for being my guest today. I truly appreciate it. And I know our audience will definitely get lots of good tips and strategies from this conversation. And again, if you're listening and you're having issues as a single mom, raising your son, um, it just seems like he checked out, or you've checked out, or you both checked out of the conversation because it can happen either which way. And you want to make sure that you're able to preserve the relationship with your child for the long term into adulthood and making him the man that he needs to be for himself, his future wife, children, whomever, that you are doing your best as a parent to set him up for success in
Yeah,
the future. Please reach out to Jennifer at Raising Kings.
reach out.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Until next time, thank you for joining us here on Impactors Out Loud. Bye.